Hola a todos, qué gusto y qué placer tenerlos nuevamente por acá. Yo soy Dani Mora, quien les acompaña en este proyecto de difusión de Terapia Gestalt. Hoy vamos a seguir hablando de la temática del self, en esta oportunidad sobre el self relacional, una perspectiva clínica fenomenológica en Terapia Gestalt. Para esto nos va a estar acompañando desde Estados Unidos Dan Bloom. Con más de 30 años de experiencia en psicoterapia privada en el centro de Manhattan, Dan Bloom ha dedicado su carrera a la formación y supervisión de psicoterapeutas. Su formación en terapia Gestalt fue con destacados exponentes de esta corriente, como Laura Peirce, Isadora Fron, Richard Kitzler y Patrick Kelly, en el Instituto de Terapia Gestalt de Nueva York. Es miembro activo de este instituto, además de la Asociación para el Avance de la Terapia Gestalt y la Asociación Europea de Terapia Gestalt, habiendo ocupado roles de liderazgo como presidente en algunas de estas organizaciones. Su trayectoria académica incluye funciones como profesor adjunto en diversas instituciones internacionales, como Gestalt Asociados de Nueva York, el Centro Gestáltico de Nueva York y el Instituto de Terapia Gestalt de Malta, entre otras, además de ser conferencista y formador independiente. Ha publicado artículos en importantes revistas de psicoterapia y ha coeditado 3 libros sobre terapia Gestalt. Su labor editorial abarca importantes revistas como Revisión Gestalt y Estudios en Terapia Gestalt, Puentes Dialógicos. Asimismo, es miembro del Consejo Científico de la serie de libros de terapia Gestalt del Instituto Gestáltico HCC y editor consultor senior del Rainwood Press. Así que una vez más vamos a seguir elaborando en relación a el concepto del self, que cada vez más se amplía y tenemos una nueva perspectiva, y en esta oportunidad hablando particularmente del self relacional. Una vez más, disfruten de esta gran entrevista. Qué gusto y qué placer tan grande me hace tenerlo en este espacio. Dan Bloom, ¿cómo está?
Bien.
En inglés.
I'm well, and my Spanish barely exists. I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you about my work and about my understanding of Gestalt therapy.
Ok. Bien. El tema que vamos a estar hablando hoy es el self relacional, una perspectiva clínica fenomenológica en terapia Gestalt. Bien, sí. Comencemos con las preguntas. La primera pregunta es: en la teoría de la terapia Gestalt sobre el self emergente, usted amplía la función relacional del self. ¿Podría profundizar cómo conceptualiza esta función y cuál es su relevancia clínica?
I'm very pleased to get that first question because it lets me know that you have actually read and followed some of my contributions to Gestalt therapy. When you ask about the clinical relevance of theory is that theory is the foundation for practice. And by that, my sensitivity as a psychotherapist comes from my heart, and comes from my heart with the understanding of theory and understanding of my life as a Gestalt therapist, understanding of my experience over the years and my experience in the world. These all come together in one whole approach, so that when I have an understanding of theory, it sharpens my sensitivity to certain ways. All therapy has theory. To the extent that we can clarify the richness of the theoretical ground for Gestalt therapy, the more we are opening ourselves to experience. Now, I've paid close attention to self-functioning in Gestalt therapy because self-functioning is how we are living beings of the field. And self is nothing really. It doesn't exist, but it's our way of organizing our understanding of what experience is. So the relational function of self was one more self function that I proposed. The other self functions probably familiar with, maybe or not, include the personality, the id or the ego functioning, I functioning, ego function, and the it function, id functioning. And it's the id functioning which gives me a sense of the light and the color of the room, my sense of your face looking at me. My ego functioning, my I, puts all of this together into my understanding of what's happening. And all of this is supported by my sense of myself as who I am, which is the personality functioning. But now, as Gestalt therapy, we become increasingly attentive to the relationship, and to know that I and you are in a relation, and that everything I say is said to you, and everything you say is said to me. And when I look into your eyes, I see you looking at me, and I see me looking at you. These are all part of the structure, the fabric of who I am. The puzzle is, how is it that when I pick up an object, I have one kind of a connection, and when I look at you as a human, I have another? It's because there's some function in self, some function of self which orients me, which moves me in the direction of another human being, which is different from the way I move towards objects. The fact that I can immediately know that I'm with a human means that my relational function has become foreground. To add this function to the self functions underlines how we are relational with one another. In fact, you could say that we cannot be fully self unless we're self in relation. And the relational function is that relation of self to others. And it's in our experience. We don't create it. It's not something added. It's something that is part of who we are, just like all self is. And it creates clinical relevance because it keeps me attentive, keeps me to pay close attention to other people as people, and how I am responding to and being responded to. That's the relational function.
Bueno, pasamos a la siguiente pregunta que creo que es importante, y es: en la terapia Gestalt, el límite de contacto suele entenderse como campo, organismo, entorno. Sin embargo, su propuesta sugiere que este paradigma es incompleto. ¿Podría explicarnos qué aspectos adicionales considera fundamentales para comprender el límite de contacto desde su perspectiva?
Yes, it's basic to Gestalt therapy theory that experience is emergent of the organism environment field. That's basic. But what I've argued all along is that to say environment is like saying the air temperature and the biological physical aspect of who I am. And this is all well and good, but I'm more than just an organism contacting its environment. I'm more than just a Homo sapien who breathes. I'm also a person who breathes. And our attention as psychotherapists is more on the person than the organism, although we never, ever, ever leave behind the organism. So that an organism environment field can explain all of it, but there's something missing. And what's missing is the sense of what it is to be a human environment, an environment for a human. And that's different because we're talking about our world. So that experience instead is emergent of an organism, environment, and the world. I've looked into phenomenology and brought forward certain ideas from phenomenology to add into Gestalt therapy. Because what Gestalt therapy and phenomenology have very much in common is that we're paying attention to life, to human living, and to draw from the phenomenologists some insights adds to our understanding. So I bring in Lebenswelt from Edmund Husserl's phenomenology, which is the life world, the world of life. And it's the world of life as a human world, containing history and culture, my surroundings, the fact that I am in New York City talking to you, speaking to you in Medellin, And together, we are together forming a world together, which belongs to you and me together. But it's my world, your world stitched together. That is what life world is. So that who I am is emergent of this world, even though it's also part of an organism environment, but it has an extra piece. And it's this extra piece which is missing and without actually being explicitly attentive to the world. And I think that's fundamental to understand the existential aspects of Gestalt therapy, because an object either is or isn't, but we human beings have existence in a very specific existential way, and that is expressed by life world. I could say more, but I think that may cover a difficult topic easily.
Como tercera pregunta tengo, la intencionalidad de contacto es un concepto complejo que desafía una definición sencilla. ¿Puede ampliarnos su mirada acerca de la intencionalidad relacional y el tejido de la relacionalidad?
Intentionality is another aspect of phenomenology that I've located in Gestalt therapy. Intentionality is, at least there's so many ways of defining it, but one way of looking at it is how I am motivated and directed in certain ways in the world, that my consciousness in phenomenology orients me towards the world. That's intentionality, and that is a very, very sloppy definition. I see it very much paralleling what contacting is, because in contacting, I also am reaching the world. Intentionality has a Latin root that means tension and means stressing. It means stretching forward. Contacting itself has aggression and moves and has a movement toward. So I see them as roughly, very closely connected. Now, the relational intentionality, I draw back to the relational function itself, is that my intentionality is also colored, influenced by what I am intending towards. My recognition of this object, which is my mouse, is different from my seeing your face. So I can form relationship with you to build my world in a human interactive way. But this is merely an object in my world. Relational intentionality brings me into the world of other people, of subject to subject. I'm with people and objects, but there are subjects along with the objects, and it's my relationship to the subject that is relational intentionality. And the fabric of relationality is the process, the moving process of being in a relationship is the intentionality of relationship. Because intentionality is a process of consciousness. It's a process of being alive. And it's the process of being related as a relational intentionality. And it's reciprocal.
Bien. ¿Es lo mismo intención que intencionalidad?
I do this, it's often, I could say yes, that's the easier explanation. Intention, but the way I would change it is that at least in English, you could have a simple intention. But I intend to go to the store. That's my intention. But my going to the store involves the process of actually looking towards the store, recognizing it, and identifying it, and moving in its direction. That's the process of intentionality. And intention can be merely a thought. Intentionality is a complete action, and it mobilizes. In our sense, in Gestalt therapy terms, it mobilizes. It's with the way by which self mobilizes. So the answer is a yes, and then a more elaborate no. You understand what I mean? Intention is sort of too easy. Sometimes people will say, maybe you've heard it, I hear it, Gestalt therapists will say, I have the intentionality to do such and such. That's not right. because we don't own an intentionality. We are intentionality. I may have an intention, but intent, as I say before, intentionality is a structure of us. I can't choose my intentionality. My intentionality is my choosing.
Es decir, una pregunta, como terapeutas, ¿cómo podemos mirar o percatarnos de la intencionalidad presente en el campo?
Yes. All of our work as therapists begins with our felt sense of wherever we are and however we are. The intentionalities express themselves as movements of the field, and across so many different possible dimensions. When I'm in a therapy session with someone and I see her looking across a screen or across the room to me, I can feel the weight of her look. I can feel the pressure of her look. That would be my experiencing the growing intentionality of our meeting. I can feel myself moving towards or away. That I would feel the intentionality of our meeting. When we work as Gestalt therapists, we pay attention to the process of contacting. Basic. If I can also say the same thing, our work is paying attention to the process of intentionality, because they're very parallel in terms of our Gestalt therapy's phenomenology.
Listo. Entonces, a ver, la terapia Gestalt ha evolucionado y ha añadido diferentes giros en sus comprensiones. Usted sugiere un giro hacia la responsividad. ¿Qué es la fenomenología y la intencionalidad responsiva en este contexto?
I was listening to your Spanish and appreciating the sound of it just then, and enjoying the music of your language and the special sounds of the music in Spanish. And I felt my face smile, and I felt my heart flutter. It's a beautiful language. Yeah, I love your questions, Danny. In fact, your next question is a very thoughtful response to everything else that I've said, everything that I've been writing, and my understanding of the development of Gestalt therapy. And you ask about the twists and understandings. Well, yeah, it's kind of basic in our history that we moved from a non-relational approach where the focus was the therapist working on the client, one-on-one, and then been moved to a sense that we are actually relating. It's a relationship that is the essence of the Gestalt therapy, that I'm working with. I don't work on person, I work with, and our attention is increasingly to the with in therapy. A person comes to therapy, but they come to work with me. So that's a different kind of a shift. Now, I've discovered in studying phenomenology that the transition in the understanding of intentionality moved from a one-person individualist model into a much more intersubjective model in the history of the philosophy of phenomenology. And that also happened within the psychotherapies that draw on the insights of phenomenology. So responsive intentionality is very close to the relational function of self. What responsive intentionality says is that when I see something, it is not just that I am finding it, but I am drawn to it. When I'm hungry, I will be drawn to food. Food will sometimes make me hungry. So it's not one direction, it's two directions. So that responsive intentionality is a little different from the intentionality where an object, food, or whatever elicits my reaction. But in responsive intentionality, it's about how I am responsive to another person. There's something about being with a human being which asks me to be responsive to the other. I'm already responding. always, kinesthetically, motorically, aesthetically, which means through my senses, and even thoughtfully. At the same time, it's not coming from me there, but it's in response to you. And responsive intentionality is the back and forth of intentionality, of contacting. As I say, contacting and intentionality are on parallel paths. So that the responsive intentionality is our relational contacting, which is not, again, towards you, but you bringing towards me. And that has direct relevance to how we work as psychotherapists. This is Gestalt therapy developing alongside of other psychotherapeutic modalities and paying attention not just to the therapy relationship, but to the finest tuning, finest variations within that relationship.
Para ayudarnos a comprender un poquito más esto, ¿podría darnos algún ejemplo clínico que devele todo este proceso?
I'm thinking about the last session I had. I'm thinking out loud. I gotta be more specific. She was speaking to me about her sense of loneliness and how frightened she was. The background fear, general unsteadiness in the world became figural to her. And as she said that to me, I began to feel myself opening in a direction, and in response to her sense of fear and loneliness and sadness. And as I responded to her, I had a sense that there's something missing. And I asked about losses in her childhood. And then it came up that she had a family member who died, which is a little girl. But what happened was that I was responding to what she was bringing forward. And my response brought me someplace different and new, which I then offered to her. So it was a back and forth interweaving of our intentionalities, creating a situation that could be allow the opportunities of some past loss to come forward into the present. I could give other examples of how in every session figures emerge of the ground, whatever it is. Every session is a little different, and the way in which the figure emerges is a reflection of the developing intentionality, and it happens and it's never something that is just the other person's, but it's something I am along with. So I'm always, in a sense, of responding to what is presented by the person. Now, those help? Those clarify what I'm saying?
Sí, es suficiente como para aclarar esto. Ahora bien, tengo que confesar que estas preguntas surgen de los artículos que usted me envió. Y la siguiente es esta. ¿Cómo influyen las complejidades del límite de contacto y del campo en la determinación de la intencionalidad del contacto?
I'm happy to know that. Yeah. The thing about writing is that you never know if I've said things clearly or if anybody ever reads them. So it always surprises me when somebody says, "Oh, I read what you wrote." So, what? I've been translated into 8 languages.
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
That's great. It would be interesting to take a look at the translations of your. I'm a translator myself, so I'm always interested in seeing how your discourse is being translated in different languages.
I learned a lot about Gestalt therapy when I was translated, because there are certain concepts in English that get clarified when translated into Spanish, German, or Italian. Then I say, I hear the translation. Then I go back to the English and have a different understanding, because the translation picked up something that was missing in the English word, but was intended in the English word.
Yeah, and I believe it happens the contrary side. Like, for example, listening to you, like differentiating intention and intentionality. Right? I was wondering if in Spanish we make that distinction, because we have.
A big one was the difference between awareness and consciousness.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It means something, but in the Latin languages, no, it's the same word. And,
yeah, like being aware, awareness and consciousness. Yeah, that for me that would translate into the same words, but they are not.
Or self,
or
yo.
Exactly. Yeah. In English, ego. What is ego? Ego is go.
Yeah.
And I also tell people that first of all, it's not in English. It was written by people in English, but Gestalt therapy is not an English language therapy. It doesn't. No language owns Gestalt therapy. It was originally English, but that is not owned by the English language. But it's all about our experience. Our experiences are pre-linguistic.
That's completely true. Okay, so Dani, nos movemos hacia la pregunta.
Sí, la pregunta. Sí.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting question. How do the complexities of the contact boundary and field influence? The answer to that is in every way possible, because the contact intentionality, or the intentionality of contacting, is a function of the contact boundary and of the field. It's not separable. It's not so much that it's influenced by, but it and the contact boundary are like this. They're all ways of formulating from different angles, formulating experience. The complexity of the field emergence, is that the figure that's emerging is a function of the opportunities which provide it out and constraints which hold it back of any particular situation, so that the qualities of intentionality will be different in every different situation of the field. I could be, for example, if I am interested in this person in a situation in which I am hungry, I'm interested to see whether that person can help feed me. I mean, that's a silly example, but I'm not hungry. I don't know where that came from. But if I'm in a situation of danger, my intentionality is a function of my reaction to the threat of that danger. So that's all part of the situation. If I'm if I'm happy, it'll be an intentionality that's colored by happiness. And they're all a function of this complexities of the contact boundary, which I want to say should be a constant, which always involves other people, in one way, shape, or form. So that people who are present and not present, present and absent, are both going to be reflected in the qualities of contacting, inevitably.
Ok. Entonces, usted afirma en el texto que una fenomenología clínica de la terapia Gestalt es simple, pero no fácil. ¿Qué implica esta afirmación y cómo se traduce en la práctica clínica? Es simple, pero no fácil.
It's easier. It's simple means that it's uncomplicated and direct. Our work as Gestalt therapists is uncomplicated, and it is not easy to either understand, to speak about, or to experience. I can experience a straightforward 1, 2, 3, but getting from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 could be difficult. Now, how does it reflect in our clinical practice? Well, it's very simple what I do as a psychotherapist. As I'm changing my seat right now, I'm putting my feet on the ground, I'm orienting myself simply as a human being in gravity with breath. What could be simpler than that? Simple heartbeat, beat, 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 beat. And it's complicated because this involves the fabric of relationality. This involves the world around me, the sun in the city in New York, Trump not far away doing whatever nonsense he's doing and destroying the world. All of this is there, even as I'm simply here with you. That phrase, simple but not easy, came from one of my teachers, Richard Kistler. And he would say that sort of as a Zen koan, as a puzzle to work out and think. And it was a valuable thing.
Bien. Y por último, en su práctica clínica, ¿en qué se apoya para responder al sufrimiento humano?
Pardon me while I choke on my coffee. But I know you're going to interview Ruella Frank soon, and she's a very, very good friend of mine. And I told her I was coming. I was going to meet you for the interview this morning. She said, "Well, what kind of questions is he going to ask?" And I went to that last question and said that to her. She said, "Oh, that's a good question. What are you going to say?" And then I had to hang up. But it's a good question. But what do we all rely on is I rely on my own response to how I respond. I always in my clinical practice, my posture, my presence is to welcome the other. Bring me your suffering in a way. I'm prepared to hold the tensions of the field and participate in that holding of that tension for further developing contacting. I attune to my own sense of the situation, my own sense of responsiveness, my sense of my availability, the weight of the session on me, the brightness of the room together. These are important information that shape me with the other. Margarita Sponolog refers to aesthetic relational knowledge. Well, she's absolutely right, because it's my knowing of you through my felt sense of you and you with me that then becomes our insights together. It's the aesthetic. And by aesthetic, I mean the felt senses of contacting, the felt senses of being here, that are the basic ground of it functioning, basic ways in which I know in my knowledge. Now we know one another. To know is a rich word. We know each other both through the clarity of me understanding your words and you understanding mine, but also even a lot more, I know who people are by what's unclear. So to be I welcome to the lack of clarity that always surrounds a clear figure. So when I was prepared to respond not just to the clarity, but to what is unclear in what is said and what is unsaid, then I am really prepared to sit here as a Gestalt therapist with the other. So that's what I rely on, is the direct experience of whatever is happening. That's the English just falls apart when I say it, but it's more than those words reflect. Is that, you follow how I'm putting that? Yeah. It could be a whole book.
A modo de conclusión, ayúdenos a ampliar la mirada fenomenológica del self relacional y para qué nos serviría esto a los terapeutas.
I think it's a sort of a summation, a question that summarizes everything that I've been saying. As I said at the beginning, every psychotherapy has a theory, whether it's articulated or not. Claudio Naranjo, I hope I pronounced it right, but it's it said that an a-theoretical therapy means without theory. And that's nonsense, because that itself is a theory. So the theory of relational contacting, the relational approach, the notion of relational self, all of these are words that reflect our basic clinical value. Our basic clinical value is a person-to-person approach, specifically in a contacting way, not in a person-to-person isn't just merely dialogue, but specifically in a way that grounds our work in the sense of our capacity to be related to one another, because that's one of the radical core of being a human person, is to be a person with others. Now, clinically, what that requires me to do is not to look at a piece of a person alone, but to see it part of a relational fabric, not just of me in this room, but of all of the relationships a person has, all of the relationships I have, all of that person coming here, all of me coming there, so that a relational understanding is an understanding of individuals as functions of relation, not as standalone eyes. This has an ethical component and a political component, because the ethical means that it's a statement, it's an articulation that fundamentally I am responsive to you. I care about you. I may ignore you, but I still care. And that is the heart of the ethical stance in Gestalt therapy, saying that this relational quality, this caring, is bedrock, is the basis of contacting. Because contacting emerges of a world of other people towards a world of other people. It's built by and building the world of people. No individual symptom belongs to that person alone. That's why some of my colleagues talk about the psychotherapeutic field. It's a field, not just a person. And these are ethical questions. And then the political question is one of authority, freedom, autonomy. These are political dimensions of Gestalt therapy, which has animated us since 1952.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias por compartir con nosotros parte de su tiempo. Yo estoy sumamente feliz de haberlo contactado y de tenerlo acá presente para que pueda responder a esas preguntas, y estoy seguro que habrá muchísimas más por responder en adelante.
No time.
Un gran abrazo entonces desde Colombia.
Greetings from Colombia.
Greetings to Colombia. I have to say, as an American, I have to say, I'm sorry about Trump. My apologies.
We're sorry about Trump.
And this has been very enjoyable to me. It's a really nice meeting both of you. I appreciate your work. I appreciate the depth of your understanding, the openness of your heart and your mind. And I think that's tremendous value. And I'm very happy to be listed among all of those wonderful colleagues and friends who you've been interviewing. And you've gotten, as far as I could tell, the best of Gestalt therapy, the world of Gestalt therapy.
Yes.
Muchísimas gracias. Que esté muy, muy bien. Un gran abrazo.
Yeah.
Bye.